This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 69 of Beers in the Lot. Unless you're a Flyers fan, we have a nice episode for you this week. We started out talking about the big changes to the coaching staff in Philly. We talked about Danny's nice game he had this week in Beer League. And we finished up with a little bit about the nice home jerseys that the Seattle Kraken wear. All right, let's get to those beers.
Crack 'em.
Everybody's on Team Pour.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it smells delicious.
What smells delicious?
So tonight I got a Dogfish Head Camp Amp. It's a milk stout brewed with graham crackers, cinnamon, marshmallows, and cocoa powder, and vanilla.
Very Christmassy. We dig that.
And it's very good. What do you got tonight, John?
So Christmas staple, Trogs, Mad Elf Ale. It 'tis the season, so I only have them for like 2 or 3 weeks. Last year I got the 12-pack in cans. I haven't been able to find that yet. But I feel like when I got it last year, I was out in a day and a half somehow. So I don't know. But yeah, it's just 11% beer. No big deal. But it's Christmas, so best time of the year. Rigs, what do you got?
I have one of my favorite local brews, Attaboy's Guava No Guava. So, nice, solid New England IPA with all the citrusy goodness and all that stuff going on.
All the hops.
Yes. All right, Johnny, tell us what happened in Philadelphia.
Well, a dog shit on the ice, which made me the most happy today.
Not just on the ice, on the logo.
Right on the logo. That's
awesome.
I mean, come on, that's years overdue. Like, let's be honest on that statement. But no, they did I think they kind of did the opposite of what Vancouver did. Vancouver kind of like cleaned house in a good way, like let's shake everything up. Flyers only they shit canned their head coach and Michel Therrien, 2 French Canadians. So now I guess they'll have a job in Montreal soon. But Michel Therrien was in charge of the offense / power play for the team, and then Vigneault, head coach, obviously. But they left Mike Yeo there, who was in charge of the penalty kill, which is also abysmal, and their defense, which is also abysmal. So kind of curious why they kept those guys. And their goaltending coach and a few of the other people. I don't know why, but
can you explain to me what happened with Voracek? I don't know what happened because I really don't care about Philadelphia, but it would seem to me that on a roster that, hindsight's 2020, right? But on a roster that has trouble scoring goals,
somehow, some way,
that they would want to figure out a way to keep Voracek around.
I didn't understand that one either. I was surprised when I saw that.
I think he was unhappy. I think he was unhappy, and that's why. Now, they did get Cam Atkinson, who actually, he's had a decent season, considering all. But, a lot of the guys, so like Konechny a few years ago, like somewhat of a breakout year. Everyone in Philly was saying it, oh, he's going to be great. And he hasn't really done anything since that year. Giroux is slowing down, but Giroux also was never like, we'll call a spade. He was never like a fast NHL, almost like Joe Thornton kind of, where Joe Thornton was never fast, but Joe could read the play so well, he was in it. Now, unfortunately for Giroux, I think he's kind of hindered from some of the guys around him.
All right.
He played really well with Voracek, And I also think too, like Carter Hart, like I'm not saying he's a bad goalie, but like I think they gave him a ton of responsibilities really quick. And one of the like stalling points on the firing of Ron Hextall was they wanted Carter Hart, and he was kind of like, I would rather keep him in Lehigh Valley another year or two just to get some positivity and some starts under him in kind of a low pressure environment. Like Philly is not easy on goalies or quarterbacks or pitchers or actually Santa or like anybody really. They're like, I mean, so like
they did throw snowballs at Santa at a football game,
scumbags.
halftime, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember the story correctly.
Yeah. But they're not like, and also too, that team, like if you kind of look at the construction of it, they also are a team that's going to be in flux. Like Giroux's going to be gone just because he probably wants a shot at a cup. I don't think Philly's going to give him that in the next couple of years. We don't like Giroux. We know that. Couturier is decent, but he's kind of like all the players they had that were kind of carrying him of kind of like, I wouldn't say a valley because I don't want to say that because, you know, they could turn it around technically. And then, you know, 10 games from now, you're like, oh, whatever.
Right.
But it doesn't look good. Now, are they like on life support, like in Montreal and Vancouver? No, they're a few points out of like really being close to the wild card or in the wild card. But, you know, time's ticking very fast. The math isn't going to look good in a week or two if they were still on the same path. So,
yeah. Are they one of these teams that is, you know, in that, what do you call it? The cycle of mediocrity, where
circle of average,
right?
It's just the same shit over and over. And unfortunately, like, I hate saying it in such a rude way, like you get rewarded at some point normally. Like you can kind of find a gem, or like if your scouting staff is really smart, you make some good trades along the way and pickups. You know, you have a good pro staff for scouting. Like you can find a guy or two or something. Even you kind of get fool's gold, kind of like what Montreal did last year, you know, or Vancouver a few years ago during the bubble. They caught lightning in a bottle, unfortunately, and it just kind of, I mean, even when we went to the Pens game, we even kind of, I mean, granted, a lot of us were joking and had a little liquid courage in our system, but we're like, this Philly team is not that good. Oh, they're horrible. But like, if you look, like nothing really impressed me with their play. And every time I watch them, I'm like, meh. Like there's no, I hate saying it because like it sucks as a Pens fan, but Danny, you could probably agree. They always go like, oh, Philly tough, you know, like we're the Broad Street Bullies, blah, blah, blah. Like,
no, they're not.
Like I remember even a few years ago when like, even a few years ago when you played Philly, like regardless of where they were in the standings, like you knew it'd be a fight. Like they had some edge on that team. They had like Hartnell and a few other guys, and even Couturier, like at that point, like he was tough to play against. You're like, shit, we got to play those guys tonight. Yeah. And now it's like, meh. Like, just kind of like, meh.
I think it was a Flyers fan, and I don't know who they are, on Twitter, I think. Might have been on a comment on Facebook, but they were basically like, everybody's worried about keeping the Philadelphia core together to try and like retool. And he was like, what are you talking about? The only players left in the so-called Flyers core from the last few years of actual success that they've had is Giroux and Couturier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've let guys walk. They've sent guys all over the league, and they've got basically nothing in return for all those moves, and they're stuck where they're at right now. So I think it's interesting that, you know, going back to Voracek, you know, you knew you had trouble offensively the last couple seasons, and you're going into this season and you basically let him walk. I don't get it.
And Voracek was always the guy, like whenever you're playing Philly, you're like, this guy's fucking scoring. Like,
right?
It was almost every game you played him, like he was scoring. Like I used to call him Scoracek because he just would score all the fucking time.
right?
every time we played him. What happened? What happened with the Nolan Patrick situation? Like, why?
He's in Vegas, sir.
Yeah, he was supposed to be their like prospect, like second overall pick, and then they just let him go.
If I remember right, like when he was drafted, he had like wrist surgery or elbow surgery, like something funky, and then I remember the actual term they used. He was delayed in training camp because he had a facial infection, whatever the hell that means.
What?
I don't even know what that means. And then he just never got going. Like he would come in, he wouldn't do anything. And it was weird because if you actually looked at the time when the Flyers had him, it was like almost perfect for him to develop because he was slotted as a third center. It was Couturier, and then I forget who they had as that second dude in the middle, but like it was set up so it'd be like perfect for him. Like give him that third line center.
Giroux the first center?
At one point, yeah, and then he switched to wing. So maybe that was it. Maybe
Yeah.
it was Giroux, Couturier, and then Nolan Patrick. And then now Giroux's more like wing hybrid type thing because it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But it was like perfect and they couldn't develop it. And I don't know if that's a coaching thing. I don't know if that's a, kind of, not to brag a little bit, but, depends. Like Rigsby and I know Ty Hennis works with all the injured guys. And they always say, like, when those guys come back, it almost is like they don't miss a beat. And I think that's because the people they have in place working with those people that are on injury reserve or coming back or ramping up or, beginning that kind of build stage, kind of where Gino's at right now. Like those guys, when they come back, they always look like, yeah, they're a little rusty, totally, because it's game versus, simulation. But like, they don't look that bad. Like Ty is doing the right things in Pittsburgh. And there's other organizations too. I just know Pittsburgh because I got a good finger on that. But like Philly, I feel like for years, like it was prospects, it was guys going in and out, even coaching too. Like Michel Therrien's been around the league a billion years. You add Hackstall, and he's in Seattle now. And I actually think that team's playing well. I don't think they played that bad in Philly. I don't think so. But they cleaned house a few years ago and they got rid of Hextall and Hackstall because of patience. They just couldn't. I don't know what it is. That organization is not patient, clearly, but yeah.
They don't understand what they had. We went off on Montreal last week about not having the right strategy and foresight and, having a plan to get to wherever they want to go. I think Philly's kind of the same way where they still think that they're super competitive in the division and the conference, and they're not anymore. And they need to have a more long-term plan to get back to where they were, where you guys were talking about before. Anytime especially if you had to go to Philly, I think it was always tough, regardless of whether or not they were considered cup contenders or whatever. I don't think it's like that anymore. I mean, the Avs went in there tonight and just pumped them, but like, it's just, I don't think, I don't think there's that intimidation factor anymore.
And think about it. Normally when you see a coach get shit canned, you usually either see one of two things happen. Like the team comes out for 5 to 10 games and like kind of lights the world on fire. Like you see some passion, like some.
Yeah. There's a bump, right?
And I feel like the bottom just looks like it fell out. Like I don't think it's, over the course of the last couple of games where the bottom fell out. Like kind of looked like tonight. Like Colorado, they made some good plays and, it was 7-4, I think was a final. But like I was watching, I was telling Riggs like offline kind of jokingly, I'm like, they just did dumb stuff the whole game. Everyone. Provorov too. I think that's the other thing. I think they thought he was a bona fide like Victor Hedman type or a young Adam Fox and all this stuff. Provorov is not at the moment.
Hey man,
I don't think he's.
I thought his first couple years in the league,
You're like, oh shit.
I thought he was legit, man.
Yeah.
I thought he was.
The last 3 seasons I've been like, huh? Like guy's still in the league, like jokingly, of course, but like there's nothing, like there's nothing there where you're like, wow, this is, and Carter Hart too. Like, I don't know who the goaltending coach is, but like, I know he had a lot of issues last year, especially it was documented like in some reports, like he was living by himself. So he'd go to the rink, practice, go home. And it was like really tough for him. So
yeah.
I'm not saying like, that's still happening because Pennsylvania is not, it's not great with all that situation. We would know firsthand, kind of.
Too soon.
But yeah, too soon. But like if you kind of look at it, like I don't know what his current setup is. I'm sure like he's doing other things to kind of like make sure mentally he's fine and getting in more a groove. But it doesn't look like he's getting any help from his teammates. Like they're getting pumped every night.
Is anybody in the league that you know of, are they still doing that kind of mentor thing where like the new kid comes in and lives with like a veteran? Because the Pens did that. Gonchar or Malkin stayed with Gonchar. Sid stayed with Lemieux. And I've seen it elsewhere as well. Is that still around? Because I thought that was like really good.
Yeah, guys are still doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's so much like they live with them as much anymore. I think that still happens for sure, but I think there is that sort of like mentor protege thing that goes on with, the young guys coming up. Like you saw when Joe Thornton was in Toronto, Marner and Matthews and that whole crew were hanging out basically like they were adopted kids, all the time.
They had
around the family.
Marlowe had Marner and Matthews over for like Christmas. They were wearing PJs and shit with the kids.
Yeah, they were over there. Like there's all that kind of stuff that goes on. I know, in Washington right now, Connor McMichael has been hanging out with TJ Oshie a lot.
That's smart.
And so I think, right. I mean, you're ultra talented now, learn the work ethic and kind of the positive attitude that Oshie carries about himself. And, you can go a long way, but yeah, I think that still goes on. I don't know if it goes on in places like Philly where everything is so fucked up, but like,
well, remember a few years ago when they had Nitamaki, Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, and I forget who they didn't like it because apparently all the young guys were hanging out and they called them the frat pack and shit. And then they jettisoned Mike Richards to LA. They threw Jeff Carter in Columbus. And then at the trade deadline, Columbus sends Jeff Carter to Mike Richards. And then they go rattle off 2 Stanley Cups in a few years. Like,
yeah. But that was that whole disaster of personalities that was in Philly at the time between those two, Briere,
Hartnell.
I think Pronger's still around, Hartnell's still around. Like, what?
There was some interesting stuff. We'll just leave it at that. Apparently, the young guys were. There were some stories we don't need to get into, but you could find it online if you really want to dig into it.
Just Google search all those names together, and
you'll find something. But the other thing too, I kind of think like Philly, especially, they kind of ran it like a mini Edmonton Oilers for years. They had Bobby Clark as a GM, and they had Lindros and the Legion of Doom for all those years, and they went to a cup. They got pumped by the Red Wings, but they were always competing. They were like
they were close. They're close.
And similar to what I said, like you do not want to go into Philly or have Philly come into your barn because those were tough freaking teams. And then Bobby Clark left, and they had Paul Holmgren also in the Flyers community, like kind of like a boys club. And if you look at some of the decisions and coaching hires and whatnot, like, did they really do anything? It seems like they were just trying to, they tried to prolong that whole, we're the tough Philadelphia Flyers, but like they couldn't back it up. And you could still have a very aggressive, tough ass team. I mean, we watched the highlights from Toronto and the Jets last night. Both of those teams are offensive juggernauts, really good teams, good goaltending, good defense, good offense. and they were kind of throwing. I mean, there's quite a few suspensions and fines from last night too. So, like, if you need to play that every now and then, go for it. But I don't think that whole intimidation factor that we were talking about, that's been gone for. I think when Keith Primo scored that 5 overtime goal, like against the Pens, years ago, I think that was the last time I remember being like, "Oh, the big bad Flyers." Just remember they came out of the lockout and they were dead last. They were dead freaking last. They were horrible. And then they had the cup run against Chicago. And if it wasn't for Danny Briere, they probably wouldn't have got there. And he scored all the overtime goals for them.
Yeah.
Peter Pan, as Danny called him.
Offsides by a mile on that one. Never getting over that one.
They still would have lost that series, probably.
Right? Probably.
That was the Breeze Goloff Flowers series when the players were shooting beach balls and it was going in still. Oh, it was horrible. Oh, I remember that. So bad. It was so bad. But your buddy's back in the league, Riggs, in Vancouver. Bruce Boudreau.
I know. Gabby's back. It's great.
This is his last ride. He's not getting hired after this. I guarantee it.
Okay, here's the thing, man. I like Boudreau because he played his pro hockey in like the old school era, right? So he played before all the 90s clutch and grab and all that crap happened. So his coaching style is that old school, high flying, lots of goals. But he's adapted that to the modern game where, whether you like advanced analytics or not, teams are using them and they're making decisions based on that. And his coaching style actually fits that model very, very well. And he's one of the first coaches, I think, in the modern game, in the last 15 years or so, that fits the modern game and the way that you should play it and the way that it's tracked, surface numbers or underlying numbers, however you want to do it. So he's insane. You never know what he's going to say. He's always good for a one-liner. Like he's awesome. I love him. So go Gabby.
He's a passionate guy. Yeah.
He's got his work cut out for him in Vancouver because I think it's a bit of a mess out there.
Which is surprising because they had that one line that was going last year or last season. You're like, this is going to go over into the next season too. And just nothing, flat. Yeah.
I don't understand, like, with some of the players that they have, like, why can't they figure something out? And maybe that's the whole point in bringing somebody new in. I don't know.
Right.
But it would help if they got some goaltending, probably.
I don't think it's all Demko though. I think part of it's they like have Quinn Hughes and a few other pieces in place, and I think that's really it. And then there's not a lot of support. And
Besser, Miller,
he only has 10 points the entire year.
I know. What is he doing? Like, come on, man.
Do something. You know that meme where it's like,
poke him with the stick.
Do something.
And the other thing too, like through 22 games, Brock Besser only has 56 shots. That's not good.
That's a problem.
Really not good.
Yeah. I mean, it just is not. It's not in a good way. Like they are not. Him too. Like he looks off. Pettersson looks off. Even Quinn Hughes to some extent. They all look off. And I don't know if that's a Travis Green thing, or maybe like there's something else going on there. But like they got Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland and they got rid of Louis Eriksson's boat anchor contract, like there were a lot of people that were like, Vancouver's going to make some noise this year. And they made noise, just not in the way a lot of people wanted it
the
to.
wrong way.
The wrong way. So Boudreaux, though, does have a pristine track record for not only coming in and like making positive changes and positivity in your organization. If you're an offensive player, you almost instantly get that shot of adrenaline in your arm. He has a good way of making offensive players feel good about their game and turning that around quickly. So like, I think especially if we're talking Quinn Hughes, Ekman Larson, Pedersen, and Besser, those are the four guys, and even Connor Garland too. Those are guys on your team. You need them to be feeling themselves every night when you go up against any team in the NHL. So if they're not having a go of things or something isn't right, that's a problem. Like, especially if those guys are the ones giving you offense, that's a problem. So, I mean, they all can't be like Danny, just burying goals left and right.
Yeah,
Shoulders are dying.
I know. What the fuck, man? Last night.
I've been put on D for so long.
How many do we score total?
5. We had 5.
So it was a tie game.
Yeah.
It was a tie game.
Us versus Danny.
If I didn't show up. Tie game.
Actually, one of the funniest parts of the entire night was off the one face off. I was just razzing him. I was like, "Do you even know how to fucking pass? Like, what are you doing?" I just teased him. Somehow, someone came in our zone, in the offensive zone. I was on the other wing, had my stick like ready to shoot. The person shot the puck wide. It was a breakout pass to Danny. Danny goes down on a 2-on-1, passes it over, and if it was like one of 5 other teammates, they would have buried the goal. And as Danny's skating up the ice, he's like, "I just passed it to shut you up." Like, it was just funny, him and I just going back. And then midway through the game, I just told him he had a bunch of passengers on his team.
Yeah, and then you came out to the parking lot and you gave me your biofreeze for my back.
Yeah, for your back and your shoulders. I was worried about you.
Nah, I'm telling you, like my captain put me on defense for way too long, and I missed
He's
like
a fame blocker. That's
a month
problem.
of offense. I just had to go off. Yeah,
fame blocker.
I had all that pent up aggression.
Yeah,
had to come out. Had to come out sometime.
Yeah, it was not a great night. So, I mean, good skate and all, but
yeah, I had a point.
Yeah, I want to. We got a cookie. As Rigsby said, the last time we got smoked, I got a goal or two. I'm good.
Yeah. Got mine.
I got my cookies.
I got my cookies.
Nice. Nice.
Well, and the only thing that was like kind of comical about the whole thing, like we would get like kind of close. We build this momentum, and a puck would bounce, like it hit someone's foot and go like inches wide of the net. Or like Rigsby and I would go, we had like a great 2-on-1 kind of, and it's a play we probably made 100 times, and like it was like an inch or two off, and we get back to the bench. I'm like, shit, like I'll just yell next time. I normally don't do that, like we're thinking.
Yeah.
And then as we're on the bench talking, like it hits off someone's foot and goes in our net. We're like, what the fuck? Like, you kidding me? Like, one of the goals, Daniel shot him in. All the other ones, they just bounced off people's feet and shit.
Yeah. Danny had the only like legit like snipes. Like everybody else was just like throwing pucks around the ice, and they just happened to pinball in.
Yeah, Danny was Vasily
Pinball
Zaitsev.
wizards.
Enemy at the gates. That's it. Yeah, your captain the whole time was like, "Oh, I'll take the shot," and then you just come up in the playoff game like, "Can I borrow your rifle, Comrade Commissar?" And he goes, "Do you know how to shoot?" And you're like, "A little." And he just blasts all the goals.
Well, it was funny because he came up to me when we were warming up, and I forgot my shoulder pads. And he's like, "Hey, Danny," I said, "I'm not playing defense. I don't have my shoulder pads."
What? That's
And
like
he goes,
your prerequisite to play D?
well, yeah, I don't want to get hit. I don't
Well,
want to
yeah,
get hit
if
with
you
a
get
shot.
hit with a
Yeah.
puck in the
I'm
chest,
not doing that, man.
that's no good.
I'm too old for that shit.
You can't lift the puck over your waist. You're fine.
Yeah, but the one time that they do,
True. Actually, we had a few guys on our team get hit like waist and shoulder high with breakout passes.
Exactly.
I was trying to catch grenades all night. It's terrible.
You gotta like do like soccer. You gotta chest them down.
Yeah.
Actually, we were talking to somebody in the parking lot jokingly about that, and he goes like, yeah, I would rather just it hit me in the chest versus like hit my stick all weird, and then I'm like fumbling for it, and then I could run into somebody. He goes, at least if it hits my chest, like I can still kind of look up and see what's going on around me. I didn't think of it that way. I was like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense, but
brutal.
At least you'll be consoled next game.
I'll be consoled, and then
have beers.
Yeah, then it's beers time.
A little bit of New Year's and holiday break, and then back at
it.
Yeah, back at it. Just like tonight, our team, John and my team, we're missing Aaron because he is off adding a +1 to the family.
Yes.
Congratulations again, Aaron. You're a dad.
Again.
Twice times.
Surprise.
You're a dad twice times. Yep.
Twice times.
This is when it gets real.
Yeah. You don't have a man advantage anymore.
Nope.
You got to play man to man.
Man to man.
As someone who has no kids, I talk a lot of shit. When that changes, I'll just look like a disaster all the time, all disheveled and shit.
Wait, what's different?
Yeah, I know. Nothing. Actually, I'll probably like have more energy, more pep in my step.
Yeah, you'll have dad strength.
I'll probably have to stop swearing as much though.
Only for a little while.
Yeah. It happens.
Can you imagine the stuff my child would say though?
Just
like evil, hateful things.
Yeah, not normal curse words.
There would be so many calls from the school. So many calls.
Excuse me, Mr. Walker, your child referred to the teacher as a jag. Can you clarify? I will say this. I love those Seattle home jerseys.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yep.
Yeah. The darks
it just
on
looks
the ice
good.
with the two like that sea foam and the other teal and even the little red stripe.
It's a nice little pop. It adds to it.
Like, oh man, they just look so good on the ice.
I like the anchor patches.
Yeah, man.
The Space Needle. Oh,
they need to do something with that. Like,
that could be a cool third jersey.
Yeah.
Give them time. Don't worry. They're going to have about 19 jerseys. Trust me.
They're going to be like
the Pens.
They're going to be like Oregon. They're going to have 82 different uniform combinations.
Yeah. Hey, I would be for that. That would be awesome.
Oh my God.
Gosh. I can't deal with that, man.
All right. That does it for this week. We have to give one last congratulations and good luck to Aaron and Hannah as they welcome their second child this week. And thank you for listening. As always, don't forget, if you want to interact more with us and find out more about us, head over to beersinthelot.com. You'll find the links to our Discord channel. It's been pretty lively this week with some of our beer league friends and teammates. But until then, we'll catch you next week. Have a nice time, everyone.